Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the TMZ Podcast. I'm Charlie Cotton and joining me today is our music expert, Eric Colley. How are you, Eric?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I had a big day yesterday.
You did. We were going to get into that.
I ran into Kanye.
Yeah.
My God. And it was just like a stream of consciousness from him. I was trying to slip in sort of questions here and there,
Right.
mostly to...
No, you did a good job. And it worked out better for you than it did for our photog Melanie last time she got him when he took her phone away from her.
Yes.
Yeah, you had a different experience.
Exactly.
Right.
So we'll talk about that. Katy Perry is quitting American Idol after 7 seasons. I'm surprised.
Yeah. It seemed like this would be where she might be for a longer time, but 7 years is a long time.
That is a long. That's actually how long Lionel Richie and the not
Luke
Lionel Richie. Who's the other? Oh, who's the old hosts like Simon Cowell and all that?
Paul Abdul and Randy Jackson.
Randy.
Yeah.
That's how long they all had. So she's going out in 7 seasons. We'll do our almost news at the end, which is one of my favorite stories actually.
Right.
But to begin with, yes, I got Kanye West at LAX yesterday, and I just didn't have any questions going into it. I see him getting out of a car, just it's time to go.
Yeah.
I pull my camera up, press record, and he does the rest of the work.
Yeah, you tried to ask some questions in there. You got a couple in, but just wind him up and let him go.
That's it. And let's have a listen to some of that interview now. Do you take back any of the anti-Semitic stuff you might have said?
Black people can't be anti-Semitic. We are Jew. You understand what I'm saying? We are Jew.
I think
So cool out. Until you do your facts, until you really do the facts with the fake indoctrination that y'all pull into the schools and all that, you know what I'm saying? We're not following y'all rules.
I mean, just calling death con on Jews and that sort. Do you take back any of that sort of more extreme stuff?
You know what? For all the kids that love me, all the Jewish kids that love me, I'm sorry if y'all had to hear a grown-up conversation with us screaming at each other. But we got to a point where something needed to happen. Something needed to be said. Somebody needed to say something. Now, if you're in an argument with somebody, you're not going to say everything the right way.
He should have stopped at "I'm sorry," because when he said "I'm sorry," if you took it this way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and to say well, I can't be anti-Semitic because it also kept saying because I'm Jew.
Yeah,
which sounds
weird,
odd.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he the point had to be addressed. What point? And if his point is that if he's getting into the old trope of Jews control Hollywood and they're silencing me and blah blah blah. I mean, that's a weird area to dip into anyway. But if you want to get at, he said, "I love Hitler" on Alex Jones. That's not making a point.
Yeah, that seems like it's just shock jock type stuff to get headlines and get attention. But I mean, he doesn't seem like he is contrite at all or regrets anything he said. He stands by all of that. He said, a lot of stuff was said in emotion. But
did you think he was going to? Because I'm trying to think through. Even before this current wave of the anti-Semitism and stuff, Kanye's always been shocking and provocative and said things. Has he ever apologized for anything ever?
No. I mean, I think a lot of people who are that arrogant and powerful and they just keep going and in their lane and don't apologize for anything.
Right. Because at most it'd be, you didn't understand me.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. And that's kind of what he's doing here. You didn't do your research.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite a startle. I was kind of shell-shocked a lot of it. I was just like, damn, he's just really going off here.
He just felt like talking. Sometimes he does. It's so, you never know what you're going to get.
Sometimes he talks and sometimes he just doesn't even look your direction, and I got
Right.
lucky. He also invoked Taylor Swift in a positive way during the interview.
Yeah, which was sort of interesting, but it's undeniable. The thing he was talking about, and this is I don't know if it's a separate issue or not, because he's talking about the streaming platforms and how he can't be canceled, and he's number one, which he is on Apple Music right now. And iTunes and all kinds of places, about how little artists make. He's trying to do an artist rights thing, and he's talking about how actually little people like himself and Taylor Swift and Drake and The Weeknd and the biggest artists in the world, how little they actually make from streaming compared to what it brings in for the companies.
Mm.
And you can't not name Taylor Swift. If you're going to try and rattle off the biggest artist in music right now, I don't care what beef you've had with her, you can't deny that.
Yeah, I mean, he said we're on the same team against the streamers.
And it's always, he said, they give us $500,000 and tell us to split it amongst ourselves. I don't know exactly what that means. Because I know, the royalty rate, some certain artists can negotiate better than others. And Taylor Swift is making money from streaming because she gets so many. But it's still, it's not like when they used to sell CDs and albums back in the day. I don't, and I'm not even going to say he's wrong on this one because I don't know. saying that the platforms just give out $500,000 and say, you guys divide it up amongst yourselves.
Doubt it.
I don't think that's how it works.
No, I don't think so. Is this got anything to do with why Universal took all their music off TikTok as well?
Partly, they said that Universal said that TikTok, as big as a platform as it is for music these days, that it was, I think they said 1% or 3% of their total revenue. I think maybe 1%.
Yeah.
They're like, that's as much as people listen to TikTok, that's how little they pay.
Mm.
And that's true. I mean, I could see they're trying to be like, we can't pay the artist more if you're not paying us.
Right.
And you're getting all this money for TikTok because you have a bajillion users. Where's the money for the music that's building your platform?
Totally. But I mean, he had a point in this. He said he couldn't be cancelled. He says, look, Vultures is number one. They tried to cancel me. They couldn't cancel me. And I don't think Kanye will ever be cancelled, whatever that means anymore.
Never 100%, no.
No.
It's weird. It's one of those, sort of like R. Kelly. And the reason I'm bringing that up, Kanye's still huge. He will always have his fans. He will always be. This album's probably going to be number one, probably going to drop off kind of quickly. And then people will go back to listening to, The College Dropout and Late Registration and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He's 20 years into his career at this point as an artist. You're going to start seeing diminishing returns at a point. And I would say that about R. Kelly because when people are like, oh, we cancel R. Kelly now, he's done. Well, yeah, he was almost 30 years into his career. You'd already stopped listening to him anyway.
But people will still bump to bounce. Like
But
everyone.
there's certain songs you'll always like the older stuff, but that he can't be canceled. It's hard to say because this album is not going to be as big as stuff from 15, 20 years ago.
No.
But it wouldn't have been anyway.
But also, it's not that as mainstream a pop type
It's not.
hit either.
There are no hits in that sense on this record.
But I don't know if that's what he's going for anymore, or he's trying.
He doesn't need them.
He wants the darker beats, and he wants the more. He doesn't want to try to get on the radio state play and that sort of stuff. I don't think,
and he wouldn't be anyway.
Right.
Again, just as an artist that's been around for 20 years, it's harder to get back on the radio. But he's doing what he wants, and his fans are there with him. So yeah, life is good for him.
Yeah, and he was with his wife Bianca there at LAX, and he was posting videos of them inside the terminal, talking about how much he loves his wife. So hopefully he, can live.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on with Kanye anymore.
Because then you still think all the things he said. It's like, wow, that's horrible.
Yeah.
You said some really awful things.
Yeah, and I just never know whether to take what he says at face value or there's something to do with because he also talked about mental illness in this, about how people misdiagnose him, and but I think that people thinking that he has some issues almost gives him sympathy,
right?
And we don't hold his feet to the fire as much because we think that he's going through something. But here he is saying, I'm not bipolar. They try to give me bipolar meds to make me fat and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think? He also made a point about how they're trying to make the Twix bars bigger to make us fat.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If it is kind of funny to that point, this is on weird sidebar, but if you ever are like at a Target or something, and they always have like the candy by the registers and stuff.
Right.
If you look at that, it's all like king size and family size. Like sometimes if I'm like leaving, like I kind of want like a little something,
Yeah.
But it's all giant things. I'm like, I don't want all that.
Right.
There's just like a normal size little something you can have.
So Kanye did have a point. He should talk more about
Sometimes he does
big
have a point.
chocolate.
Right,
Let's
big
take
chocolate.
down big chocolate.
But then it's that whole, it all, of course they want to do it because they can sell more. They can charge more. It's a money thing. But, it's all conspiracy theories and it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Okay, on to our next story. Katy Perry is out of American Idol. She announced it last night on Jimmy Kimmel. So after 7 years in the chair, she's going to step aside, wants to focus on touring, new music. I think this is a bit of the sort of Taylor Swift effect. Maybe she's getting sort of like a bit of jealousy.
Misses being a pop star?
I think, you might miss being a pop star if you're a judge for a while, but God, she had it good.
Yeah, and that 7-year run was really good, and it kind of got her back in the public eye. It's so weird to think now because there was a period where she was Taylor Swift basically.
Right.
Like 2010, 11, Teenage Dream. She 5 number 1 hits off one record. Like she was the biggest pop star in the world for a while, and then it just ended.
Why did it end?
I don't know. The moment changed, music taste, people moved on to other things, and she just didn't transition as well with that. But maybe she's ready for a comeback.
Did she had follow-up albums, The Teenage Dream?
Yeah, she had other number 1 hits after that. Her song Roar was from the next album.
That's right.
Dark Horse was after that. And then it just kind of kept dropping off a little bit each time to where people just didn't care anymore.
But then she got American Idol, been there for a long time, earning reportedly $25 million a season, which isn't bad. She thinks that, my question is, why can't she do both? Why can't she do American Idol and write new music? Because surely American Idol only shoots a couple months out of the year.
Right, she could do both. I mean, I guess maybe it's hard to book a tour if you're really trying to do like a big world tour. You can't take like 6 months off in the middle just to be in LA. But well, she already did a residency in Vegas.
She wants a new challenge. I understand.
Yeah, she's bored. She's been there 7 years. There's not much left to prove. I thought the interesting thing was that Jimmy Kimmel asked her what Lionel Richie and Luke Bryan, her co-host, thought. And she goes, well, they're finding out tonight.
Right.
So
I hope she's told him.
I want to see that text chain.
Well, I mean, I think that she's also received a bit of criticism over the years for her style of judging. And maybe because she's kind of like a bit of the mean judge.
Right.
Because Luke Bryan is just a lovely guy.
He's the Paul Abdul.
Yes. And Lionel Richie's just a sweetheart as well. And so they needed a bit of, a mean judge, and she filled that slot, but not really authentically. Like
she wasn't like Simon.
She wasn't like Simon, and Simon was a lovable hater.
Yeah,
but she's kind of like, it feels like some of her disses are sort of like, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah,
and so I think maybe she's over being the critical person. She just wants to be her and go on tour.
And it'll be interesting to see if maybe she can have a big comeback because she was the coolest thing for a while, and then she was kind of not cool for a little bit. But now we're 15, almost 20 years away from I Kissed a Girl. People like maybe kind of miss her a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we're ready for some Katy Perry again.
I mean, I think a lot of people fluctuate between cool and not cool.
Right.
I think Taylor Swift is in a very cool era right now.
Right.
But she's definitely had times where she wasn't.
Right.
So I don't put it past Katy Perry to rise to the top again.
Yeah. And Idol, it's not as big as it was in its heyday. So it's just professionally, she's gotten all she can get out of it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting. Have you heard of a guy named Benson Boone?
I haven't.
He has a song called Beautiful Things. It's number 3 this week. It's a huge hit. It's blowing up. He's 21?
Wow.
He's young. But he was on Idol a couple of years ago. He auditioned, got through. They're like, you're going to Hollywood. He dropped out before he got to Hollywood because he wanted to focus on his career.
Wow.
So kids are now turning down Idol so they can have careers, as opposed to back in the day, that was what made your career.
Because you got to sign a contract and just take your time.
You got to go through that whole thing. And because when's the last time American Idol produced a big star?
I mean,
it's been a while. So this kid's a huge star, but he dropped out to focus on being a star instead of, I don't know who won that season, but that's the point.
That's the point. Okay, on to our next story. Tom Cruise reportedly has a new girlfriend. She's a Russian socialite, Elsina Karova.
That looks good to me.
She's 36. He's slightly older.
61. But it's a big gap, but at least she's an adult, It's not like she's like 20.
Yes.
Like 36? Okay. She's a grown-up.
Well, I mean, the Daily Mail was the first to report this, and they had like an insider telling them that, they've been an item hanging out for weeks, hanging out at her £10 million London apartment.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
And so they've just been going to fancy dinners, galas. They've been in Hyde Park, which is a big park there in London.
They've been trying not to be photographed and keep it private, which makes me think it's real.
Yeah.
Because he was so public with the Katie Holmes thing. That was the Oprah couch jumping and all that.
Yeah.
The Nicole Kidman thing was very, very public.
Right.
Maybe this time he's learned, maybe I don't go jump on couches on TV.
I'll go for a Russian socialite. What even is a socialite? That's just basically someone who's
Paris
unemployed
Hilton.
and
It's just always
partying.
Paris Hilton to me. Like you come from money and you do what you want.
Well, she actually, this Elsina, she recently finalized a divorce, and she got nearly $200 million out of the divorce. So she's doing all right.
She's all right.
Tom's doing all right.
Tom Cruise is okay. I think he can pay his bills.
It's just always interesting who Tom Cruise is dating, because not only is he the biggest star in the world, but he's also maybe one of the weirdest. And and
particularly his relationships. There's always weird speculation, and it is weird. He almost always has dated actresses. Like his 3 marriages were Mimi Rogers in the 80s, Nicole Kidman, and then Katie Holmes, all 3 actresses. People he worked with at some point, usually, not always. But yeah, maybe he's trying something different in his 60s.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, always trying new things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. His next stunt.
Right.
Okay, on to our final story. Almost news. I want to talk about Beyonce and Beyonce's new country album. She's released a couple songs from the album so far, and I have never liked Beyonce more.
They're good songs.
They are such good songs. It's almost like she should have been a country artist to begin with. They're that good. And this is going to be Renaissance Part 2. Is going to be a country album. You'll remember Renaissance Part 1 was house music.
Right.
And there's speculation that there's a third installment coming, which could be rock and roll. And her point in doing this is basically covering the genres that Black people helped create and popularize, but it's kind of been forgotten about in modern times.
Right, like the song Texas Hold'em features Rhiannon Giddens, who is a Black female country artist. Country radio does not play her, but she's like, Black people played the fiddle and stuff before bluegrass white people did. And so it's like this reclamation of Black culture for things that people don't even associate anymore.
Mm.
And that's what Beyonce's definitely been all about that lately. But this, I don't know if you remember the song Daddy Lessons on Lemonade. It was a country song. She performed it with the Chicks. That was one of the best songs on that album.
But she had some beef with the Country Music Awards and that sort of stuff because they didn't want her in the genre. She was up for country awards for that song. She wanted to perform, and she did perform at the awards show. But she had beef with the awards so much that she now points to that as part of the reason now that she's going to cover the genre in a whole album.
It was funny that that CMAs performance with the Chicks got pulled and all that. People were upset about it, and that's when Beyonce was doing Formation and had like the Black Panther imagery at the Super Bowl. So a lot of white conservatives who tend to be country fans were not happy about that. Also, though, the funny thing is, it might not just be Beyonce that got that performance scrubbed. It was with the Chicks.
Oh,
remember,
sure.
they got banned from country radio in 2003.
It was like doubling down.
They said they were ashamed of George Bush. So to have Beyonce and the Chicks on stage, a lot of people were not happy about that.
It's just interesting that country music is having such a renaissance, no pun intended.
Yeah.
You got Post Malone's coming out with a country album this year. Lana Del Rey has a country album called Lasso coming out later this year. Tracy Chapman just had the #1 song with Fast Car because it was with Luke Combs, country art. It just feels like a lot of...
Well, we always talk about Taylor Swift being the biggest artist or Drake. We don't talk about how huge Morgan Wallen is.
Right.
Like, he's constantly one of the most streamed artists in the world, and country's huge.
And maybe huger than ever. I wonder if Taylor Swift would ever go back to country.
It'd be interesting.
It'd be really
if she went, I mean, folklore was like folk. It wasn't country, but she kind of dipped a toe back into that sort of sound. But if she went full on mainstream country again, I'm sure country would love that.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Eric. Yeah. Thank you for joining me here today, mate.
All right, go out and get Kanye again.
I'll go and get Kanye again.
See what you get today.
Okay. Thank you, bro. And we'll see you guys here tomorrow. Goodbye.